Hello, and welcome to A Scot on Scotch, the YouTube channel that celebrates all things Scotch whisky. My name's Neil Murphy, I am a blogger, I'm a writer, and I'm a whisky lover. I live here in Glasgow in Scotland, and I like to talk about Scotch whisky as much as I possibly can. So it's been a wee while since I've made one of these videos. In fact, a couple of people have even come up to me and mentioned how long it's been. So I wanted to try and do something about that, get some more content out there. Um, I will explain a wee bit in this video, why things have slowed down a little bit. It has been a very busy period of late, and we'll get into that a wee bit. But yeah, so a lot has been going on, really. Even just on a personal level, there's been a lot going on. I was in holiday in October. I spent a week in Arran, which was lovely. And then not long after we got home, we got a new puppy. Um, she's called Daisy. She's a Cocker Spaniel. So we already have a dog. He's called Hamish. He's a big hound. And now we've added Daisy, the Cocker Spaniel, as well. And she is a handful. She's only about 10 or 11 weeks old. So nobody's sleeping. There is toileting going on everywhere but where it should be. And yeah, it's a challenging time. But not to worry, it's almost Christmas, so Um, but yeah, so things have been a bit mad of late. On that, I have been working quite hard over the last few months, say, with an old friend of mine. We are starting a business together, and hopefully it will be something that is of interest to people that watch the channel. Um, our company is called Scottish Rogue, and we will be running whiskey tastings, whiskey tours. We're going to do some walking tours, or as we call them, pub crawls. Um, to begin with, very much focusing on the Glasgow area. We really want to help boost Glasgow's profile as a sort of whiskey destination. We've got two distilleries now in the sort of city boundaries of Glasgow. But then just a little bit further afield, we've got Jackton down at East Kilbride, there's Auchentoshan out at Duntoker, Glengoyne just at Killearn there. Wee bit further afield, you've got Loch Lomond, you've got Deanston, Tullybarden, Glenturret even. There's quite a lot that you can reach, say, within an hour of Glasgow. And we really want to focus on that, really focus on what the city has to offer whisky lovers. Um, so yeah, that's one of the things we're going to be looking at. Later on we might expand, we might do things in other areas as well. Why limit yourself to just one place? But to begin with, I think we really want to focus on putting Glasgow on the whisky map where it belongs. We're going to be working with some great bars and stuff like that, different businesses. We really want to shine a light on all the good businesses that are operating in Glasgow and spreading the good word of whisky. So yeah, I hope it's something that will obviously be good for us, but also be good for the city of Glasgow and for Scotch whisky in the long run, because I think it's important that we get more and more people talking up Scotch whisky. Now more than ever, things are a wee bit complicated at the minute. Sales seem to be down, and it might just be a wee temporary blip. Let's hope so. Um, but I think the more people promoting and celebrating and encouraging new people to try it, more to the point, I think the more people doing that, the better. So that's what we hope to do. You can check out the website at scotishrogue.co.uk. Our booking system isn't quite alive yet, but you'll be able to go in and see the sort of things we're going to be offering. At the minute, we're sort of limited to just 2 or 3 different experiences. But that will be increasing as time goes on. We'll be putting more things on there. We've got lots of really cool ideas for different tasting events and sort of immersive distillery experiences and things. As well as, your more basic, we'll be doing the walking tour, we'll be doing online tastings, things like that. So there's going to be something for everyone, ideally. We want to offer something for the traditionalist, but we also want to offer something for people who are maybe a wee bit curious about whiskey, but are put off by all the rules that we've built up around it. So maybe we can break down a few boundaries along the way. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun anyway. Just figuring it all out and seeing what works and what doesn't. So please do go and check it out. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to critique on the website, that would be welcome as well. Any feedback's always good. So yeah, that's scottishrog.co.uk. And we will be on all the socials. We're working on that just now. So Instagram, Facebook. We might do TikTok, I think. I'm not sure about the others yet. But we'll see what happens. We may even do some stuff here on YouTube. Maybe some live streams. We're even talking about some podcasts and things, maybe. So yeah, watch this space. Hopefully there will be lots more content coming soon. I won't be stopping what I'm doing with a Scot on Scotch. I will still be doing the blog and hopefully these YouTube videos. But I think the whole process of setting up this new business has taken up a lot of time. So that's maybe why the blog content has slowed to a crawl at the minute, and it's been a long time on YouTube as well. So hopefully this will ramp up again as we start to fit it all in as part of the business, But yeah, so that I hope explains why maybe I haven't been around as much as I would have liked. I wanted to talk a wee bit about some of my recent experiences because although I've been hard at work with a business, um, I have also done quite a lot of whiskey themed stuff. October and November have been really busy months. I visited Port of Leith distillery in Edinburgh. I went to the Edinburgh Whisky Festival at Murrayfield. Then a couple of days later, I was back in Edinburgh and did a wee trip out to Glenkinchie distillery. Um, on that, Port of Leith I thought was really interesting. Obviously, they don't have their whiskey yet. They do have their table whiskey, which I think is a blended grain, is it? Grain whiskey anyway, which is a nice enough dram. I don't think it was all that exciting, but it was pleasant enough. I thought their port was nice. They're doing port and sherry and things as well, which is interesting. I believe they've got into a wee spot of bother about the port thing because like the I don't know, the Portuguese equivalent of the Scotch Whisky Association, I suppose, has got after them about it because their name is Port of Leith and they're bottling port. There's a bit of a problem there. I suppose it'd be like somebody having the word Scotch in a product that's not from Scotland. Um, I know port has different meanings, of course, but they seem to have landed in a wee bit of bother for that. So I'm not sure what the outcome of that's going to be, but they haven't made any claims that the port is made on site. They're very clear that it's something they import from elsewhere. But I don't know. I don't know what the outcome of all that was. I don't know if that's been resolved yet. But interesting scenario anyway. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Port of Leith is, of course, a vertical distillery. It uses gravity. Everything's pumped to the top and then it just flows down. So it's kind of the opposite from what you might expect. The stills are in the ground floor and everything goes down the way and then distilled at the bottom. Interesting stuff. Not the first. I believe Mackmyra in Sweden got there first with the gravity distillery. But it's quite an interesting idea. I like to see people trying new things, and it's in such a cool location because Leith is probably my favourite part of Edinburgh. I like spending time in Leith, and it's right on the seafront. It overlooks over to Fife. It's a lovely wee spot. So yeah, it's interesting. It's always good to see these new urban distilleries popping up. I just spoke about the ones in Glasgow as well, and Edinburgh's got a wee boom going on with Port of Leith and Holyrood and the other one whose name escapes me at the minute. But yeah, it's good to see. Good to see. In times of uncertainty with Scotch whisky, we're seeing some expansion projects put on hold and things like that. It's good to see these new distilleries because when you go and visit them, you sort of can't help feeling a wee bit of hope and a wee bit of positivity, because they're so early in their journey and everything's still new and exciting, and you just hope that they're able to ride it out until they've fully established themselves. So yeah, that was Port of Leith. The Whisky Festival at Murrayfield was fantastic. Great stalls there. One of the highlights, actually, I've got a few dram recommendations that I was going to wait till the end to do, but while I'm on the topic, at the Edinburgh Festival, Cadenhead's had a stall, and I picked up this wee beauty here, which I was reliably informed at the time was actually a Lagavulin, a 15-year-old Lagavulin, which is quite frankly unheard of. I can't remember the last time I saw a independently bottled Lagavulin. I paid, I think, about £110 for it, but it's 15 years old. It's 54.8%. If you compare that to what Lagavulin are charging now for their, sorry, what Diageo are charging for the Lagavulin 12-year-old cask strength, this wins by quite a margin. So I was fairly happy to pick that up, let's say. And it was nice that Cadenheads were able to actually sell direct from their stall. You know, you didn't have to go to the shop, you could just pay for it right there at the stall. I think a lot of the exhibitors I speak to these days seem to prefer that. I think they do better business when people can buy direct from them. You know, you're at the stall, you try something really good and you say, give me that right now. Instead of, well, I'll try a few more things and then I'll pop by the shop at the end and I'll see what I remember, you know. Because these festivals, even when you're being sensible, you try a lot of drams and things get sort of muddled and you chat to different people and maybe you don't quite remember what was the highlight. And so, you know, I tend not to buy from the shop at the end now. But if you can buy direct from the stall, I think that's much more encouraging. I think it's a much handier way to do that transaction, you know, and you make sure you come away with something that's really good, like a Lagavulin, for example. Um, so yeah, that was really good. The Monday after the festival, as I said, I was back in Edinburgh to go to Glenkinchie, another Diageo establishment. Like Coolila, it is one of the four corners of the Johnnie Walker blend. I've never been all that sure about that whole four corners concept. But what I would say is I did think the visitor experience at Glenkinchie was actually really quite well done. It's very kind of corporate in places, I suppose, but I don't know. I liked it more than I thought I would. They've got like an interesting sort of sensory room experience thing you do, um, with some nice sort of ambient music playing, and I mean it's all these synthetic smells you get, and I'm never convinced that they smell of what they say they smell of, but I don't have the best nose by any means, but you know they all kind of smell chemically to me, but it was still fun and I really enjoyed it. Interesting to see the Glenkinchie stills and the line arm, if I remember right, really sort of slanted line arm. Um, because you think of Glenkinchie as a sort of light, delicate lowland, and actually there is a bit of body to it. It's got a bit of a backbone there. I often wonder actually what would happen if you put peated spirit through Glenkinchie's stills, because it would capture a lot of the bottom end, you know. You could end up with something really, really heavily peated. As far as I know, they've never done it, but it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if they did. After Glenkinchie, well, it was only a week or so until a big family holiday through in Arran. Naturally, there are two distilleries in Arran. You've got to go and visit both of them. We went to Lochranza first. That's the original Arran distillery. Started in 1995. It's a favourite of mine. I don't know how many times I've been, 7 or 8 at least, I think now. But I love the distillery. It always feels like coming home a wee bit when you pop up to Lochranza. It's changed a bit over the years, you know. I think the first time I went, they only had the one set of stills, so they've expanded. Things are bigger now. They're producing a lot more whiskey, but the quality is as good as ever, if not better. Um, you know, I used to love things like their 12-year-old cask strength and the 14-year-old, and a lot of them have gone now. I think there's rumours of the 14 coming back, but the stuff that's replaced it has been really of sort of equal quality, I think. We did a great tasting on the day. The tour guide that looked after us, if I remember right, his name was Ewan, maybe. I may be getting that wrong. If I am, I apologise. But he was excellent, really enthusiastic, really passionate about his job, really clear in what he was saying, but entertaining and a storyteller as well. And that's what it's all about, right? You don't want somebody that's just going off a script. You want somebody that's putting a bit of themselves in there and putting a bit of their passion in there. Tour guides are probably some of the most important people in the whisky industry, and they don't really get the credit that they deserve. Tour guides and maybe brand ambassadors. You know, we think of the master blenders and all that as the superstars of the whisky industry, but really, the tour guides and the brand ambassadors are that first point of contact for everybody. It's where they connect with a brand the first time. So arguably they are more important than anywhere else. And they all deserve all the credit as far as I'm concerned. They do a brilliant job on the whole. And the man we had at Arran was a great example of that. Poured some cracking drams at the end. I took home a bottle, so here's another wee recommendation for you. I don't know if it's still around, but it was the distillery exclusive. Now, I don't have to hand exactly what went into this. It is listed on the label there, you might see, as second fill sherry hogshead, but it was a bit more complicated than that. It was basically a vatting of lots of different casks that all went into the second fill hogshead, to sort of marry together. But I really enjoyed this. As I remember, it was quite low in the ABV, like it was down at. I actually haven't written the ABV on this, I've just noticed. But as I remember, it was around about 47, 48. And that's something I've found increasingly over the years, actually. With Arran, I think, me personally, I prefer it when the strength is reduced just a little bit. I find it can be. It's a quite a spicy spirit at the best of times, and I think when you bottle it at cask strength, that spice really kicks in. And I just prefer it reduced slightly, a wee splash of water. I mean, I'll buy the cask strength stuff quite happily, but I personally will drink it with a decent splash of water in it. So I was really enthusiastic about this one that was reduced down even further. I say reduced, I think it just naturally had come down in strength. I don't think they had actually reduced it, just, through evaporation. The Angel's share and all that. It was quite low ABV. I'd need to double check. I'm sure 47.9 or something was what I remember. It's marked as no age statement because everything that went in was all different ages. So I don't really know that they kept track of it all that much. But a great dram, brilliant distillery to visit. You have to go if you've not been. Okay, so yes, that was Arran. Sorry, I just had somebody at the door there, so I had to nip off and collect a wee parcel. But yes, so naturally after you do Lochranza, you've got to go down to the other end of the island and do Lag. We did them 2 days apart. We did Lochranza one day, Lag the next day. You could do them in the same day, but you would really need a designated driver, or you would need deep pockets. There are taxis in Arran, but they are not cheap. We just taxied it anyway because there was four of us. So, it's not so bad when you're breaking it up. But I think we paid maybe £35 each way. So that's £70 a day in taxis for 2 days. It's not cheap, but for me anyway, it's worth it because our taxi driver was lovely. He's a local guy, lots of local knowledge, lots of stories to tell. And to be honest, it's nice that none of our group had to sort of deal with the hassle of the driving. If you're a really confident driver, it's not a problem, but some of the roads in Arran are a wee bit dodgy. They're not bad, there's a lot worse elsewhere, but they're not. If you're used to city living, Arran's a different ballgame. And especially the day we went down to Lag, the conditions were interesting to say the least. I'll try and stick some pictures or videos up while I'm talking. But it was incredibly foggy the day we went down to Lag. Lag obviously is on the south of the island, and it's much lower, so all this fog just rolled in off the sea, and it was beautiful. It was really atmospheric. But I'm glad that none of our group had to drive in that. I think having the taxi driver was perfect in that scenario. But yeah, so Lag, that was my second time being at Lag. We were looked after by another great tour guide. If I remember right, her name was Olivia. And I think I don't know if she's left yet, but she was about to leave Lag to go and work in production at the new Benbecula distillery. So if that's happened already, Olivia, if you happen to be watching this, best of luck in the new role. You will be a loss to Arran and to Lag because you were brilliant. You were a great tour guide. I'm sure you will be just as good on the production side. Um, Aaron's loss is Benbecula's gain, I suppose. But yeah, so another brilliant tour, and we spent some time with Fred afterwards. Fred is the sort of brand home manager or whatever it's called. I'm not very good with titles, but Fred I've known for a few years. He showed me around Lag when I went the first time back in 2021, I think it was. And he's a good guy, really knows the brand and really cares for the brand actually. He's really invested in it, and you get that. So again, I picked up the distillery exclusive at Lag. Here we go. Beautiful big chunky bottles. There it is. It's an ex-bourbon cask. It's 5 years old. I believe it's the only Lag so far to have that 5 year age statement. We had a wee sample of it on the day, and I thought it was great. So that was the natural choice for me, you know. I like Lag a lot actually. It is weighty and oily and heavy and smoky. It is just right up my street. As a peathead, Lag is just a phenomenal dram. You know, I don't think it's one for the sort of I don't think it's one for the peat curious, maybe. I don't know if you need to sort of ease yourself into it. Although in saying that, although the spirit is really sort of heavy and weighty, I don't think it comes across like the peat doesn't blow your head off or anything. It's a really interesting malt actually. Um, doesn't quite feel like an Islay, although there's a bit of that in there. But yeah, it's good stuff. A really good addition to the world of peated single malt Scotch, I think. You know, it's going to be right up there with the likes of, Longrow, Lechig, um, Old Ballintroon, Ballychan, these sort of non-Islay peated, Torrevake even, the sort of non-Islay peated malts. This is going to be right up there with them. Oh, what's the other? The Glenalkin, Meikle Tor. That's another good one. But Lag competes very well with any of them, in my opinion. And this is the only first 5 year old, so it's got a long way to go. I think some of the core range for me still feel a wee bit raw, a wee bit sort of feisty, but they're work in progress. They're not bad whiskies by any means. They are good whiskies. You just get the feeling that there's more to come from them. Um, so yeah, I think Lag is very much one to watch, especially if you're sort of into the smoky side of things. So that was Arran. No sooner had I got back from Arran, in fact, pretty much the day after I got back from Arran, it was time to go to Islay. My travel plans got all messed up because of weather and because of ferries. So we had to come home from Arran a day earlier than expected, but I had to go to Islay a day earlier than expected, which meant leaving home halfway through my daughter's birthday, which was a bit of a shame, and I don't think she was too happy about that. She's only 9, and I had to leave during her birthday to head to Islay. I left at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I got to Islay about 8 o'clock that evening. But if I had tried to travel on the Sunday, well, that was when Storm Ashley blew in, so I wouldn't have been going anywhere because all the ferries were cancelled. And as it happened, actually, the ferry then broke down the next morning as well, so there wasn't another ferry until Tuesday evening. So yeah, it's one of the risks really in any journey to Islay. You just have to be prepared to be flexible. That's one tip I would give anyone. If you're trying to travel to Islay or any of the other islands in the winter, be prepared to be flexible. You may have to change your plans at the last minute. If you're determined to get to Islay or wherever you're going, you might have to change and go a wee bit early to avoid weather, or knock your travel back a day, or whatever it is. You might have to leave the island early to make sure you get home in time, whatever it might be. It's just the way it goes, really. And it's funny because to me, these things can be quite stressful, worrying about how I'm going to get there and am I going to get home and all that. But the islanders just take it all in their stride because it's just part of island life, you just get used to it, and there's nothing you can do about it. These things are out of your control, so you just have to learn to live with it. And they're so sort of calm about it all, which is quite reassuring in a way. But yeah, so the Islay Whisky Academy was, as always, brilliant. What a week we had. We visited, now let me get this right, on the Monday we went to Bowmore, on the Tuesday we went to Kilchoman, on the Wednesday we went to Ardnahoe, on the Thursday it was Bruichladdich Day, and on Friday it was Ardbeg. Now, on top of that, we had lectures from Ken Lindsay, who is a brilliant but retired brand ambassador with, history with Chivas and Ballantine's and all that stuff. We had David Webster doing a talk on geology. We had a wonderful man from Argentina doing a talk over, Zoom about stills that he had built in his own home. I'll try and put a link up to some of his stuff. And yeah, it was just, as always, a wonderful week. We had tastings in the evening. I did my own Ceol Agus Crack whiskey and music pairing, which is always brilliant fun. Something I'd really like to explore a bit more with the Scottish Rogue project I was talking about earlier. Whiskey and music go together so well. And I think it's quite a good way of maybe making it a bit more accessible to people. We don't need to talk about tasting notes. We don't need to be super analytical about whiskey. I like to talk about how whiskey makes us feel, not necessarily what you're tasting and what you're nosing and all that. How does it make you feel? And I think when you talk about that with music, which is just as evocative and just as sort of romantic and emotional, then you can create something really special. So yeah, watch this space because that's something I would really like to play about with a bit more. Um, the other big news, of course, from the Islay Whisky Academy um, is the release of Rachel MacNeill's comic stroke book stroke graphic novel. It's called Beyond the Barley, Shacket and Yorna in Gaelic. It tells the story of people moving from like the Fertile Crescent all the way up and then down across Dogger Bank into Scotland, into Orkney, Shetland, and down eventually to Islay, up behind me here, there. Um, and the people bring with them bare barley. They bring with them a still, and that's how we get whiskey. It's a fantastic sort of fable. It's beautifully illustrated, and it is the best kind of sort of Celtic fairy tale. It's just lovely, and it gives us a cool origin story for Scotch whisky, and the use of bare barley in Scotland. It's beautiful. I'll show you. This is the cover. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything or give anything away, but you can see the quality of it is just gorgeous. The art was done by a brilliant artist called Alexis Bowden, and her work is just gorgeous. It really is. So what a cool project. I love things like this. I think it's really cool that whiskey is almost like a muse for people. It inspires creativity, it inspires people to make things, it inspires them to tell stories. And that's what whiskey is, it is telling stories. And that's what Rachel's done here. She has told a really just a magical story with whiskey at its kind of heart. It's not necessarily about whiskey, but whiskey runs through it. It's just wonderful stuff. Yeah, so another couple of drams, I suppose, that came out of my week in Islay. The most obvious one, I guess, being I finally managed to get a hold of the Arran and Lagg Infinite Loch. That is the first core release from Arran and Lagg. I think it's their third release overall now. We had the original 5-year-old inaugural release, then there was a Fégila release for this year, and then Infinite Loch. As you can see, I have been really enjoying this. It is. I'm trying to think where you would describe it as fitting in on the spectrum of Islay. It's not like a real big heavy hitter in terms of peat. It's not quite as light as Bowmore, but it does kind of remind me of Bowmore a little bit. Especially the Infinite Loch is quite sort of. There's a lot of bourbon casks in here. I think the inaugural release had a few more sherry casks in there. This leans more heavily on the bourbon, and as a result, it's quite light and fruity, and you get quite a sort of salty character coming through with the peat as well. But it is a wonderfully drinkable whiskey, and 50% as standard. That is the bottling strength standard for Arran and Lagg now. And I love to see that as well. I think that's brilliant. It will be interesting to see what comes next from them. I know there's talk of other limited editions. It'll be really interesting to see what their next kind of core release will be. I imagine it might be a year or so before we see something, but they are starting to build up a real interesting back catalogue now. That's 3 interesting releases they've had out. The inaugural in particular was exceptional, I thought. This I wouldn't quite put as good as the inaugural, but as a sort of everyday Islay dram, it's great stuff. It really is. Yeah, so that's Arran and Lagg. Looking forward to seeing what comes next for them. Something really cool happened at Bruichladdich as well. They offered us a wee sort of deal. So if any of our students at the academy wanted to buy their Valinch bottle, that's the hand-filled bottles that you get at Bruichladdich. If we wanted to buy one, they were going to take a picture of our group and put us on the label instead of the staff member that was there. And naturally, every single member of the group took them up on that. So here it is. Only the 50cl bottle, of course, the Valinches, but it was, I believe, a 13-year-old Reeve Salts, 2011 distilled. There we all are. Oh, where am I? There we go. There's me at the end there, looking all smug. But yeah, it is things like this that is why Bruichladdich is one of my favourite distilleries. They just sort of managed to go the extra mile, you know. And there was a bit of a mix-up actually in getting these bottles to people at the end of the week. But they came through and they have resolved it and sorted it all out, you know, so fair play to them. Mistakes happen, but it's how you deal with your mistakes, how you sort it out, that sort of shows the test of your character, you know, and they have dealt with it. So fair play to them, yep, and it is very, very cool to be on a label of a Bruichladdich bottle, especially when, you know, we just paid the normal price for the Valinch. Do you know, I haven't even tasted it. It's one that I will open. I'm not really a person for keeping bottles closed, but I don't know. It feels like I should wait for some kind of special occasion or something. But then Christmas is coming up soon, so maybe this could be our wee Christmas drama. I don't know. There's always that possibility, I guess. One more bottle that I brought home from Islay was from a visit to the wee Islay Whisky shop in Bowmore, somewhere I always try to pop into. Always do a wee bit of shopping and pick up gifts for people when I'm in Islay, just wee trinkets and things. But I always go into the whisky shop in Bowmore because they have some independent stuff like from Finlaggan and Port Askig and all those brands. This was the Phage release from this year, the Finlaggan Phage. I believe it was a small batch release. There you go. cask type Tempranillo barriques. So should be interesting. Again, I've not cracked this yet. 950 bottles were available. And again, oh, we're not getting focus. There we go. Yeah, and I get very reasonably priced, if I remember right, £55, something like that. Really reasonably priced, especially for a Phage bottle. Usually when you put Phage bottle on the label, you can knock the price up considerably. So yeah, another cracker. It was a phenomenal week. The Islay Whisky Academy just goes from strength to strength. Um, people connect with it so much, you know. I think partly that's just the magic of being an Islay, but there is something special about the Islay Whisky Academy. You know, again, we had people, you know, at the graduation dinner on the Friday night, we had people getting really emotional. About the end of the week, you know, and I get it. I feel the same myself. Every time I go, I sort of think it can't possibly be as special as it was the last time, and it always is. It always is. It's just as good the next time, you know. It's always different because the people are different and they bring their own stuff to it, and you know, we learn and change because of the people we're sharing the experience with, but it is always just magical. You know, I can't think of any other way to explain it. It's magic. It just, there's a spirit and a sort of joy to the week that just, I don't think you would get anywhere else, you know. Um, well, maybe you'll get it in Glasgow, you know, because that's, if we can take a fraction of the sort of magic from the Islay Whisky Academy and capture even a bit of that in what we hope to do for Glasgow, then, you know, we'll be doing all right, you know. But yeah, so I think I'll probably leave it there. Um, the Scottish Rogue stuff should be coming online hopefully in the next couple of weeks as I record this. I'll put a wee link to the website in the show notes and stuff. Please do come and follow us on all the social media and stuff. I will try over the next week or so as well to get some written reviews back on my blog, get that back up and running again. And yeah, so please let me know if there's been any brilliant whiskies you've tried recently. Oh, maybe I should give a wee shout. I did try, I've not had a bottle, but I did try the Arran and Lagg 10-year-old in the pot still bar and was very impressed with what I tasted. That's another new distillery that just keeps going from strength to strength. The quality they are achieving consistently at such a young age is ludicrous, you know. So yeah, the 10-year-old tasted beautiful in the pot still. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please do subscribe just now. It really does help. And yeah, I will hopefully speak to you all soon. Slange. Cheers.